Yes. Fine. So today we are going to start with the integration. Now development has been covered. Now we are going to start with the entire new thing, and that is integration. Now where exactly, first of all, let's understand what does it means by the integration, where we require this, and then what are the scopes of the integration, what are the scopes of the Salesforce integration. So the integration, first of all, if we, in a general terms, if I wanted to explain you what is the meaning of integration. So for example, if you have any different system, for example, let me go with this. Here, if we have this is our okay, this is our organization. This is one of the Salesforce organization. Now, for example, Salesforce organization number 1. And then there are few of the systems, few of other organizations also. It could be like Salesforce organization number 2, or it could be like any other organization. It could be any other system. It could be any other system like for example, it could be a payment gateway system, or it could be a system based built up, some of the applications built up on the Java, or probably some of the application built up on the SAP, whatever. So it could be any else system, and if we wanted to connect our Salesforce organization with these organization, so this is something called as Salesforce to Salesforce integration, and this is something called as Salesforce to third party integration. So there are two different, first of all, what does integration means? Integrations means connecting your Salesforce org to any other organization, to any external system. And then whatever the resources we are having over here, for example, we are having, we built up some of the classes, we built up some of the triggers, we built up some of the visual force page, or we built up some of the objects, some of the fields. And we wanted to expose all of the resources, we wanted to expose these resources to outer world. There are two, integration actually, it's a two-way job. I mean, it's a kind of two-way communication where there, this thing is again, this thing comes over here also. Okay, for example, this third-party system, it could be like another Salesforce organization. It could be any other technology built-up system. There are few of the resources over here also. And now, for example, we wanted to have an access on this resources. So there are two possibility of the integration. The first possibility is like whatever the resources you are having. Now, what is your resources? Your resources are like your classes, your triggers, your user interfaces, your objects, okay, your business automations, whatever. Okay. So these are your resources of this organization. We wanted to expose this to outer world. That means some other Salesforce organization, or maybe some other organization, maybe some other application, those who are built up with some other technologies like SAP, Java, or with any good technologies, they could access these classes, they could access these of the resources. So how we are going to perform that, that is something we are going to learn inside this topic. So this is providing your resource to outer world. The second possible is whatever the outer world is having for you, and if you require to order that, if you wanted to order that, and you wanted those things onto your dining, that means the whatever the resources this organization is having, whatever the resources this application will be providing, you wanted to have those into your, you have a certain kind of application where you require some of the parameters, some of the features of other applications too. So that is something when we are consuming, when we are asking to consume the things from other organization, this is also something called as integration. So basically is what, integration is a two-way things. Either you can, either you can expose your resources, you can present it to outer organization, or rather you can ask for outer organization resources inside your application, inside your Salesforce application. So integration actually means a two-way communication. Now we see, we also have learned something called as sending of outbound messages. If you remember, what are the four things that a workflow can do. There are only four operations, because that is an workflow is a completely obsolete thing, nobody now actually uses the workflows. Even your process builder are also going to be get obsoleted. Okay, so we must, as soon as possible, we must learn, all of us, we must learn the flows. So flows is something which is going to be there in the Salesforce as a declarative program, as a declarative your business automation tool. I mean, without writing the code, you can also do it with the triggers also, with the visual force page also we can do it. But then without writing the code, there are, although right now we are having three things, but then out of that three, it is most, it is most possible that workflows and the process builder are going to be get obsolete one day. That's the reason we must be, all of us, we must go and learn the flows, lightning flows. Okay, for that you should have a little bit knowledge of the lightning experience. So I have decided one thing, I decided one thing, that I will be taking 2 to 3 sessions probably at the end, after deployment has been completed. I'm going to take 2 to 3 additional sessions on lightning experience. I will be making I will be making you to be get comfortable with something called as lightning experience, right? So whatever the navigation we have followed onto the classic, same, I am going to replicate it onto the lightning also, so that you could, if you, even if you are working with the lightning experience, it won't bother you that time. So that is what I have taken a decision, and I will be covering this as an additional part. So normally I haven't announced this before this batch, but from your batch I will be taking, and you will be the first one to whom, I almost, I'm going to take almost 3 to 4 or probably 1 week session, whole 5 days session for the lightning experience. I'm going to take that. Anyways, so we have learned this, we have learned this sending the outbound message. So what was that actually? It's a one-way integration, where if you are running a Salesforce organization, if you have a Salesforce organization, for example, this is your, and there is some other outer system, there is some other outer system, and you just sending the message to that outer system. So that was a kind of one-way communication. So this was an outdated technology what we use inside the workflows. And because, because this is something where you cannot get the responses whether that message has been received by the, if you are the sender, for example, if your Salesforce organization is the sender and some other organization, it could be a Salesforce, it could be any other system also, if that organization is a receiver and we are sending some messages, we are sending some tokens, we are sending some messages from our Salesforce organization to this using that outbound messages. Okay, we drafted and then we have make that automation, and now we are sending those messages. So there was no mechanism with which, we can get an acknowledgement whether this receiver has received those things, because sending of the outbound messages was only one way communication. So this was something which was, this was something which was actually a kind of drawback, and that is why, that is why it has been removed. That is why it has been removed. Okay, so integration, what we are doing is like, it's a bidirectional communication sort of thing. Now here, you will be learning two major things. Here you will be learning two major things. Okay, see, first of all, if the external system is also Salesforce, you are one of the Salesforce organization, this is also one of the Salesforce organization. Let's consider we are performing, we are performing an integration between Salesforce to Salesforce organization. We are performing integration between Salesforce to Salesforce organization. Then this is something called as Salesforce to Salesforce. This is something called as Salesforce to Salesforce. So for this, for this, let me show you. We will having the Salesforce to Salesforce integration. Now for Salesforce to Salesforce integration, we actually don't require to write down the code. That means, here also, I cannot say 50%, but I could say okay, at least 10%, at least 10%. I mean, at least for Salesforce to Salesforce integration, whenever we are trying to, whenever you're trying to pass some parameters from Salesforce organization number 1 to 2, and then at the same time, if we wanted from 2 to, we should receive some of the parameters to Salesforce 1. So if this is your requirement, if you wanted to had an integration between Salesforce to Salesforce, from one Salesforce to another Salesforce organization, in that case, Salesforce has given us that provision. Okay, we certainly don't require to write down the code. So again, in the integration, although we are certainly required to write down the codes, but then 10 to 20% part, at least between Salesforce to Salesforce integration, we don't require to write down the code. There is a method for that. There is a step-by-step method that I will be covering. In fact, I'm going to start with this only. First, we will be understanding that declarative integration. That means, see, what is a, हाँ, आता हूँ मैं यहाँ पे भी आता हूँ, अगर टॉपिक से बैठ नहीं होते अपन. So, we were going to start with, declarative integration. That declarative integration means how to integrate without coding. So there are so many different tools for that also. Of course, there are so many different tools for that. But what we are, what we are covering in that, what we are covering, I'll be covering the Salesforce to Salesforce integration. Okay, this will be one form, and majorly what you are going to see over here is like, how we can connect a Salesforce to any other third-party system which is not Salesforce. Now it could be any SAP system, and Salesforce is 100% flexible. That means you can connect any technology system. It could be a legacy system, it could be a recent technology system. It could be like Java, it could be your .NET, ठीक है, it could be .NET, or it could be PHP, ठीक है, or it could be systems that having that Angular JS and whatever. So whenever you are integrating Salesforce with any other third party technology, that time we are going to, that time we will be going to understand how to write down something called as APIs. For these integrations, we certainly require to write down a code, a kind of classes. That code is called as APIs, application program interfaces. I mean, with this interface, the programs and the applications, they are going to have an interconnection between them. So when you are actually, when you are connecting Salesforce, when you are integrating Salesforce with some other third-party system, then we certainly require to write down the APIs. APIs again have two types, REST and SOAP, that I will be covering a whole thing we are going to cover over here. But at least, for Salesforce to Salesforce, whenever your sender or receiver, if both of the organization, they are Salesforce, then we certainly don't require to write down the code over here. There's a method called as declarative customization, declarative integration, and we can, without writing code, just following the navigation, just following the step-by-step navigations, we will be, able to transfer the data from one Salesforce to another, and even we can receive the data from second Salesforce to another, like this as well. So majorly, guys, what we are learning is like how we can connect the Salesforce. And see, integration is something most of the times, people don't cover it because it's a little bit, not more, but it's a little bit complicated topic. I would not say ki it is something that you cannot learn. No, after learning triggers and everything, after learning triggers, and you are having after writing the test classes, after writing the controllers for the visual force pages, what you constructed. So we right now, what we could consider that we are having that much of the knowledge, that much of the programming knowledge. Though you haven't done any programming in the past, but this is for the first time when you join this course, and this could be for you that you are writing the code, but then you have written it, right? Now you are doing, probably you are doing the practice onto that also. Okay, I have given you one second, let me बात आइए दिमाग में मैं बोल देता हूँ. See, I have given you one code, uh, 2 to 3 days पहले probably I have given you that code of yeah, this one, roll up summary triggers code. Okay, now why this is important, why I have given you, actually, I was about to, somebody has asked me, I think Shubham has asked me to give that, but I tell you one real time requirement. मैं सिनेरियो दिखाता हूँ आपको. I tell एक सिनेरियो दिखाता हूँ मैं आपको. एंड आई मीन, वो जब मैंने कोड किया ना, दैट टाइम आई कोडेड इट, तो फिर मुझे रियलाइज हुआ कि एक्चुअली आप लोग को देना चाहिए ये, बिकॉज यू गाइस गोइंग टू रिक्वायर दैट. So let me show you something. See, I was having one of the requirement where, for example, this is one of my object account. Okay, standard object, of course. And here, if, for example, if this is an account record, advanced management company, understand this. This is, I'm telling you, a real time scenario where you should learn, why you should learn that roll up summary trigger जो मैंने आपको दिया है. So I was having this record, account record, and then I was having few of the fields like there was a field, I mean, all of them are actually submitted unit and housed unit, staff count. Or let me go with this with our villa apartment. This will be more significant. This will be more significant. So here, this is one of the account record. The type is community, and the name is Virar Villa Apartment. It's an account record, and this is a absolutely real time example. Okay, this is an absolute real time example. So here I was having few of the fields like total units submitted and then leased by WHC. Now here I certainly required to create a formula according to my document, according to the document that was being shared to me. So total units submitted, I mean, this particular field, total units submitted and leased by WHC, leased by WHC. So they require to have a formula. They require to have a formula in such a way that it should, total units submitted should display what. तो यहाँ पर कैसा है, there is a relationship over here. I mean, there's a field called as unit. Let me show you that. There's a field called as unit. Okay, there's a field called as unit. So this unit actually, this unit actually is this object, product object. This unit is actually product object. I mean, there's a lookup relationship over here. The account is related to product. Okay, account is parent, product is child. ठीक है, अकाउंट इज पेरेंट, प्रोडक्ट इज चाइल्ड, एंड you have this field called as unit. Using this field, what you can select the products, you can select the product. So whatever the products, whatever the units that you have associated, that you make you make a relationship, that are going to be listed out over here. This is lightning interface. In the lightning interface, we have something called as related list. Related list जो आपने भी देखा है वो सेम चीज यहाँ पर भी है, related list. रिलेटेड लिस्ट आपने भी देखा है, बस वो ये है कि आपने क्लासिक में देखा है वो थोड़ा सा अलग दिखता है, ठीक है. Classic में also, if you open any of the record, for example, if you open this Athena home products, this is what your related list, related contacts, related opportunity, related cases. ठीक है, यहाँ ये नीचे दिखता है, पहले रिकॉर्ड दिखता है. लाइटनिंग में कैसा है कि लाइटनिंग में पहला जो है आपका रिलेटेड लिस्ट दिखता है. सो दीज आर द थ्री units, that are three products. Unit is product, by the way, that are connected, that are having, this is the parent record, these are the three child product records. So here there was one of the field, in the account, total unit submitted, where I should get the count. Ki how many childs are associated with this record. If this record, if account is parent and product is child, if account is parent, contact is child, if account is parent, opportunity is child. समझ रहे हो आप, वैसा ही है ये. If account is parent and product is child, for this particular account record, Virar Villa apartment, how many products are associated? Now you can see there are three products associated. So I need to display that count. यानी मुझे यहाँ पे roll up summary की functionality को implement करना था. Roll up summary की functionality को I need to implement that. ठीक है. So what I did, see what I did in that case. Let me show you. Exactly जो आप पढ़ रहे हो ना, that is not deviated from the real time. Thing is like कि थोड़ा सा complicated रहता है, थोड़ा सा बड़ा रहता है, बस और कुछ नहीं. What you are learning, that is up to 30 to 40% of the code. But then logics are same. This is the kind of code, a similar kind of code I also have like created for you. और बिल्कुल यही ट्रिगर मैंने आपको लोगों सबको बना के दिया है. ठीक है, ट्रिगर एकदम एग्जैक्टली कि आफ्टर दिस आई क्रिएटेड ऑन द यूनिट ऑब्जेक्ट पे, आफ्टर इंसर्ट, आफ्टर अपडेट, बिकॉज रोल अप समरी जो है वो हमेशा रिकॉर्ड के बिफोर में नहीं होता, आफ्टर में होता है. इफ यू परफॉर्म द इंसर्शन, आफ्टर दैट इट शुड बी अपडेटेड. रिकॉर्ड जो है उसका काउंट, या फिर काउंट अपडेट होना चाहिए अपडेट ऑपरेशन के बाद, डिलीट करने के बाद. ठीक है, डिलीट करने के बाद माइनस होना चाहिए. जैसे अगर 3 था तो 3 में से एक चला गया, बचे 2. अनडिलीट करने के बाद, रीस्टोर करने के बाद 2 से वापस एक आया 3. तो दैट्स द रीजन कि रोल अप समरी का ट्रिगर जो बनता है वो हमेशा आफ्टर बनता है. और इवेंट्स कौन कौन से रहते हैं? आफ्टर इंसर्ट, आफ्टर अपडेट, आफ्टर डिलीट एंड अनडिलीट. ठीक है, सेम ट्रिगर देखो मैंने आप लोग को बना के दिया, बिल्कुल सेम ट्रिगर. ठीक है, और रिलेशनशिप क्वेरी जो मैंने आपको सिखाया था, ठीक है, एक क्वेरी के अंदर मतलब मैं क्या फैच कर रहा हूँ, आई एम फेचिंग दी आईडी नेम फ्रॉम अकाउंट. ठीक है, लेकिन उसी के अंदर मैंने एक इनर क्वेरी भी बनाया जहाँ पे मैंने प्रोडक्ट से डेटा फैच किया. ठीक है, प्रोडक्ट से डेटा फैच किया, और उसके बाद में फिर जो भी रिलेटेड प्रोडक्ट है, मतलब इस पर्टिकुलर अकाउंट के अगेंस्ट में, जो भी रिलेटेड प्रोडक्ट्स हैं, मतलब जो भी रिलेटेड चाइल्ड रिकॉर्ड है, उसका साइज ये मैंने वहाँ पे अकाउंट सबमिटेड यूनिट्स पे भेजा. सबमिटेड यूनिट्स, ये देखो टोटल यूनिट सबमिटेड. इसमें क्या भेजा मैंने? काउंट भेजा, साइज भेजा वो कलेक्शन का. तो बेसिकली देखो यही था रोल अप समरी का ट्रिगर. आपको मैंने अकाउंट एंड कॉन्टैक्ट के लिए बना के दिया है, मैंने उसको अकाउंट एंड प्रोडक्ट पे रिफ्लेक्ट किया, और भी कई जगहों पे रिफ्लेक्ट किया मैंने उसको, 2-3 जगह. ठीक है, उसमें फिर एक और चीज थी कि अगर देर आर टोटल रिकॉर्ड्स, टोटल प्रोडक्ट रिकॉर्ड दैट आर एसोसिएटेड आर 3. ठीक है, उसमें से कितने हैं जिसका स्टेटस लीज्ड है, तो उसकी एक फील्ड थी कि लीज्ड बाय WHOC. तो यहाँ पे मुझे सिर्फ जैसे आउट ऑफ 3 हाउ मेनी ऑफ देम जिनका स्टेटस लीज्ड है, तो उसके लिए फिर मैंने दूसरा कोड लिखा. उसके लिए फिर मैंने एक दूसरा कोड लिखा यहाँ पे कि दिस इज सी कमेंट. देखो आप कमेंट से समझ में आता है कि ये कोड किस लिए. लॉजिक टू अपडेट लीज्ड बाय WHOC, दिस इज द नेम ऑफ द फील्ड, लीज्ड बाय WHOC. ठीक है, रियल टाइम कोड्स कैसे होते हैं? फॉर अकाउंट इक्वल्स टू कमेंट. तो यहाँ जब मैंने क्वेरी फायर किया, तो यह भी क्वेरी की इनर क्वेरी पे थोड़ा सा मैंने मॉडिफिकेशन किया कि मुझे सारे प्रोडक्ट्स दो आप, लेकिन पर्टिकुलरली वो दो जिसका स्टेटस इक्वल्स टू लीस्ट है. ठीक है, इस तरह से. तो कैसा है बेसिकली रियल टाइम की कोडिंग कुछ अलग नहीं है जो आप सीख रहे हो, लेकिन जो आप पढ़ रहे हो ना, दैट इज समथिंग विच इज इम्पोर्टेंट, और बिल्कुल वैसा ही रिफ्लेक्ट करते हैं हम लोग. थोड़ा सा आगे का रहता है, थोड़ा सा उसमें ज़्यादा रहता है। ठीक है। सो इंटीग्रेशन बेसिकली क्या होता है कि विदाउट इंटीग्रेशन आजकल कोई भी एप्लीकेशन बनता नहीं है। आजकल कोई भी एप्लीकेशन बनता नहीं है, बिकॉज ऑलमोस्ट हर एप्लीकेशन, मतलब एक एग्जांपल लो कि एक सुपरमार्केट का एक एप्लीकेशन है, ई स्टोर का एप्लीकेशन, ई कॉमर्स का एप्लीकेशन है। ठीक है। देर आर सो मेनी डिफरेंट ऑनलाइन फैसिलिटीज, यू कैन ऐड द आइटम्स टू द कार्ट, and whenever after adding you certainly required to make the payment. Now here what we require, here we require a payment gateway for that. Payment gateway is a kind of application the banking services provide us. That means we should build up a kind of application where we should integrate the payment gateway with our own applications. For example, you are constructing a kind of application where you wanted कि whenever in the account object or in the contact object when they are entering their city, or probably you are building some kind of your travel a kind of travel website or something like that. So if someone enters the pin code or I mean the name of the city, if someone enters, then your application should be, your application should be able to display the weather forecast for that particular city. For example, if somebody enters the Nagpur over here, so your application should be able to display the weather conditions of this city for the next 8 days or today's date, whatever. So this you are going to get with one of the website called as Open Weather Map, right? So your Salesforce in the Salesforce there is nothing. There's no such application. There's no such facility that we could get this. So we required to ask this facility from this website, Open Weather Map. So in that case, we also perform the integration to make our application more responsive, to make our application more usable, right? To make an application to have certain more facilities. So we require to perform the integrations. We require to perform the integrations. So integration is a kind of real time requirement. We cannot skip that. We cannot skip that. And it's a 90% of the cases. It's a 90% of the cases. In a real time application, whenever we build up something, we certainly require to do the integrations, because everything is not possible with the Salesforce application. Try to understand this. Everything is not possible with the Salesforce application. There are so many facilities. There are so many facilities that we require to get it from outer website. From we require to get those facilities. We require to get those applications. We require to have those kind of functionality from the outer application. So how we can do that? We can do that with the integrations. So in the real time, almost for 90% of the project, out of every 10, 9 project will require you to do the integration. Some could have small integration, some could be entirely built up on the integrations. Some could entirely built up on the application. See, understand one thing, this. If you go with this website, if you go with this website, for example, Make My Trip. Okay. This is also one of the Salesforce application, by the way. You know this. Who is working behind this? Salesforce is Salesforce is the one who is working behind this. Now, this website, this particular application, Make My Trip, have so many things. Here you can, like search for the flights. Here you can book up for the hotels and homestays, and here even you can go with the holiday packages and check. Okay, I could assume that holiday package is one of the tab that could have its, that could have this Make My Trip have their own data to get displayed. Fine. But what about this flight bookings? For the flight bookings and everything, for the flight bookings and everything, they require to integrate it from some other website. For hotels, they could have some other applications. For train booking, they probably require to integrate it with IRCTC, this application, for getting the details of the train, for example, New Delhi to Kanpur onto this particular date. Now, whatever the information right now you are getting these are something called as, lightning, uh, lightning cards. This is what you are seeing right now. This is something called as lightning cards. Your information is displayed in a presentable form. This is something called as lightning card. Okay. So where this whole data is coming from? This is coming from IRCTC website. That means there's an integration that is working behind this. If you wanted to book the cabs and buses, then again this website required to have to load certain data from some other resources. So how, whenever we are, whenever we are building any kind of responsive system, whenever we are building any kind of responsive system, any kind of application that would have certain different functionalities. So your application doesn't have everything. We require to integrate the application with every functionalities. Now this is a kind, this make my trip is one of the best example for that. Here we can assume that it could have only one or two things. Could be like holiday packages is their own area of interest. Okay, this could be something जहाँ पे हम ये बोल सकते हैं कि हॉलिडे पैकेज जो होगा उनका अपना निजी मॉड्यूल होगा. बट इन अपार्ट फ्रॉम एवरीथिंग, आपको फ्लाइट की डिटेल्स, होटल की डिटेल्स, ट्रेन की डिटेल, बस की, कैब्स की, वीजा and charter flights and activities, everything they are getting this information from some other websites. How? Because they are tightly integrated with all these kinds of applications. तो ऐसे भी applications होते हैं देखो जो 90% इंटीग्रेशन पे रन होते हैं. तो कुछ ऐसे भी applications होते हैं जहाँ पे 10%. बट एक बात याद रखो, इंटीग्रेशन जो है इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इंटीग्रेशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग टू मेक एनी एप्लीकेशन a responsive application, to make any application a kind of a real time application. Integration is required. तो इट ऑल डिपेंड्स कि आपको कैसा प्रोजेक्ट. मेरा पहला प्रोजेक्ट जब मैं ज्वाइन किया था सिनॉप्टेक, पहले ही प्रोजेक्ट मैंने इंटीग्रेशन कर दिया था. इवन मेरे इंटरव्यू में भी पूछा था कि आप इंटीग्रेशन जानते हैं क्या. आई सेड यस. एंड देन ही निर्देश करके था बंदा भी, तो उसने छोड़ दिया. He asked me कि did you know how to integrate? So I said yes, I know. So then he asked me to describe the integration. I said there, first of all, there are two types. If you wanted to integrate it to another Salesforce organization, then we certainly don't require any coding for that. To perform the Salesforce to Salesforce integration, that is pretty simple. There are some of the defined steps, could be like 9 to 10 steps are there. But then this is only one case. Apart from this, whenever we wanted to have an integration with some third-party system, what we should write down, we always write down the APIs for that. APIs, there are two types, REST and SOAP. So I explained him everything. And then he asked me whether you have worked on any kind of integration. I said yes. I worked on, I was having two examples in my mind. First one, I showed you that open weather map. I'll be taking that. And then second was pin code API. There's one more thing, pin code API. So I'll be explaining you that also. Probably I'll also take these two applications. So I said yes. With a government website postal pin code, I have performed the integrations. That if this is the URL. This is the URL. With this URL, what happens? I tell you. I'll be telling you that. So I created these two projects for myself. For example, if you enter 440024, that's my pin code, my area's pin code. So this is going to give you this response. This is something called as JSON, JavaScript object notation. Then we will be displaying this into one of the application. We will be probably creating one visual force page for that. And I'll be explaining this example, don't worry. Okay. So it's all, guys, it's all okay. Integration is must. Try to understand this. We cannot skip this. And the one who knows this, the one who's having this knowledge, he becomes the first preference. He becomes the first preference because out of 100 applications, 90 requires integration. Some of them require little bit of, some of them is completely dependent on the integration. जैसे कि वो मेक माई ट्रिप और आपको क्लियर टिप कुछ में एग्जांपल दिया, रेड बस का एग्जांपल, ठीक है. और आपका दिस जोमेटो एप्लीकेशन जहाँ पे आप बुक करते हो, देयर आल्सो पेमेंट गेटवेज रिक्वायर्ड, राइट. So whenever you go for Flipkarts, any e-commerce, there are also payment gateway, and certainly different things are also. So there are few of the applications which requires a little amount of integration. Then there are even some application that is completely built upon integrations. So to make a application more responsive, to make it more, to make it kind of having more and more facilities, we certainly require integration. This is the most important topic. After development, this is also one of the most important topic that we are going to learn. So again, let's come to this. I told you that there are so many different tools for that. If you wanted it without coding, yes. Without coding also, there are so many different things. MuleSoft is from the Salesforce. Informatica बाकी other जाके जितने भी नाम है ना, these all are like third party tools actually. These all are third party tools. ठीक है. So MuleSoft is kind of, you know, it's a Salesforce sponsored application. And if we want, you know, we could even get this from App Exchange also. So if you go to the App Exchange in the category, if you type the integrations, you know, if you type the integration, then there also, you know, there also you could get some of the applications. For example, if you type the integrations, okay, let's see what we get with this. Here is it has been written integrations. So if I wanted some of the application to perform a certain type of integration, what I can do is, like, you know, instead of building it, I could even go for uh, app exchange, and from the app exchange, you know, I could also download. See, there are so many different applications over here. So what is this? This is, see, this is I think this is Gmail to Salesforce connections. Okay, so for this have application 24 files connect to Salesforce with the SharePoint. SharePoint is, you know, this Microsoft SharePoint. It's a place like your um, you have this Google Drive, right? The Microsoft have something called as SharePoint. You know, you can even integrate Salesforce with that also. So there are so many different applications. You can even try it from here also. You could download them into your org. You know, you could download them into your org, and then you could start working on them. So that is also one of the possibility. Without writing the code, we can get it from the app exchange. Okay. Now, what we will be learning over here will be Salesforce to Salesforce integration, right? And then comes the programmatic integrations. So for the programmatic integrations, we are going to understand APIs. You know, we will be writing the APIs. We will be understanding what does it means by the JSON, how to generate the JSONs manually, how to decode the JSONs manually, and how to generate the JSONs automatically, how to decode the JSONs automatically. And everything we will be learning. So outbound message was one of them, but then this is completely outdated. This is completely outdated. Okay. So please go with this theory. I have written, not I have written, I just copied and pasted over here. So go with this theory, what exactly it means by the integration, then what are the benefits of the integrations. You know, there are so many different benefits. It increases the productivities, it increases the access of the data and the communications, and there are so many different ways. Okay, so I'll be starting with, you know, I'll be starting with Salesforce to Salesforce integration. I'll be starting with Salesforce to Salesforce integration. Chalo. So for that, I'm going to require two different organizations. What I'll be doing is, like, one should be your provider. I mean, the one should be the source. The second one should be the target, right? That's the reason I require two organizations. 102 batch. Okay, so I'm doing one thing. You know, I'm doing one thing. I have logged in into Google Chrome with your account. Okay, this is what batch 201. So let's consider that batch 201 is this batch 201 is the source organization. Okay, from where we will be, you know, we will be exposing the data, and the source is sometimes also called as provider or the publishers. Okay, though the one who provides the data, the one who publishes the data, the one who is the source of the data. So there are different names in the integration. And then I also require, you know, I also require, because I'm transferring some of the records from any of the object I'm transferring. So to cache that record and to store into the similar object, for example, if I'm from the source or organization, for example, if I'm transferring few of the account record, few of the case record, then I must have some of the object inside the target that should catch up. So I also require one of the target organization for that. So whenever we are performing this Salesforce integration, we certainly require two Salesforce organization. One will be the source, and the second one would be the target. Okay. Now let's understand that. So what I will be doing is, like, let me go with any other browser, and then I'll be logging to one of my previous or batch organization. Salesforce. Second, let me log in into this batch 10. I think Just give me a second. Let me enter my credentials and everything. Yes. Okay. So now see, this is my provider organization. This is my consumer organization. I mean the source or target organization. So this is also one of the batch I have taken. So let me. So here what I am doing, the publisher, the source is I have logged in from Google Chrome. Okay. And my target organization, my consumer organization, I am logging into with Firefox. Mozilla Firefox. Okay, so these are my two organizations. So you first of all require to have a login. Now see, understand one thing. Integration is actually a two-man's job. Let's consider this is one of the other organization. Okay, and this is the Google Chrome is other organization. These are the two separate organizations. One of them is like, for example, Skylight Cloud Solution, and the other organization is, for example, it's Align Align Talent Management, something like that. Okay, so these are two separate organizations, and now what we are performing, we are actually trying to transfer the data from this to this. We are trying to transfer data from this to this. If you understand how to make one as a source, one as a target, then you would also perform the into the reverse way. What are the steps what we are learning? What are the steps that we are learning right now that you can revert it. तो अभी क्या सीख रहे हो, what you are learning right now is like how to make one of the source and other one as a target, and then how to transfer the data from source to destination. You are making this source, you are making this destination. Then afterwards what you can do is like you could make this as a source, you could even make this as a destination by following the same navigations what you are learning right now. You could replicate it for second time also. So this by this you could establish a two-way communications. Okay, by this process you can establish a two-way communication. So for this, for this Salesforce to Salesforce integration, let me first of all decide whether I can take it, because it's going to take time. 40. It's going to take whole one hour for this. Let's skip that part. Right? So kal dekhte hain, chalo. Let's do it by tomorrow, because this is going to require, I need to explain you every steps. Every step I need to explain you, and it's a time consuming. It's almost require 1 hour to perform this whole integration. There are so many different steps over here. You can understand there are almost 10 steps, and I require to explain you every step of this. Then only you can able to understand this. ठीक है, आज के दिन रुक जाओ थोड़ा सा, because we cannot do it within 20 minutes. So we will be starting this by tomorrow. Fine.